మీకు ఎన్ని కథలు చెప్తాను, నేను చదువుకోలేదు అనుకోండి. రైట్, but still let us go over here. Fine, sir. So yesterday we have spoken about serverless applications, right? And if you try to remember, it was fairly easy. All I've done was I've created an API gateway, a simple Lambda function, and then we have written the data into the DynamoDB, where I think I've done delete and create. And all you had to do was implement similar methods with put and get to get all the items. That's it. Okay. Am I audible to the people of the web, sir? Right there. Okay. Azure Sdk for Python. Okay. Now you understand what libraries are, right? Yeah. And once you understand what libraries are, the rest of the stuff is fairly straightforward. All you need to do is whenever you want to do something, you need to figure out what are the methods that are available in that library and start working on this. So what will I do is, first, let me not even write any single line of code. Let me try to fetch a sample line of code. Yesterday, you have asked me to remind a function, remind a question. Type that question that I forgot. Lots of things have happened to me after that. You type your question, I'll try to answer. Oh, it was about HTTP API and REST API. Sir, HTTP API means there is no standard. You are only relying on making a call to any URL, which is in any format, and it doesn't represent any resources. You make a curl request, it gives you a response. That is basically what a HTTP API is. When we basically go with REST APIs, there is certain structure to it. For example, /books represents a books resource. In that, whenever you are trying to basically make a post, you are creating, update, deleting. So there is some structure or some kind of a style design to it. When we are speaking about HTTP API, there is no style. Make a HTTP request, it should give a response. That is just a request response library. So generally, that is not a good fit whenever you are developing applications. It is okay whenever you want to give some kind of a standard response. That's the basic difference between HTTP and REST API. HTTP API doesn't define anything. It only defines two things: request, response. Okay. Whereas if you go with REST, we have resources. When I'm designing a college API, I'll have books, library resource. In library, I'll have books, right? So I'll have student, I'll have faculty. Each of the nouns which you deal with, everything becomes a resource on which whatever actions which you perform become HTTP methods. It is fairly organized, all right? But HTTP doesn't do that. Okay. You will use only REST API. No one in his right sense of mind will ever use HTTP API until unless he wants to give a standard response. Yeah. Okay, sir. And now let me try to look at Azure SDK for Python. I'll not do anything. So this is something which I want you guys to get used to it. Tomorrow, if I try to tell that I want you to write a Python program to do something in Oracle Cloud, this is how I want you to start. Just go to this, right? And then explain how to get, okay, whatever you want. So for example, I want resource group list of Azure from Python using CLI credentials. Let us not even get into all of that stuff. So what is it trying to tell? You need to install two libraries, pip Azure Identity, Azure Management. Okay. Now, whenever you try to do this, you will get your subscription ID and then set it as an environmental variable, Azure underscore subscription underscore ID. And all you need to do is use that credential. Okay. Set your subscription and then use something called as, if you remember in AWS also, we used to create client or resource object. Here you are creating a resource management client. And then all you are trying to do is you are trying to get all the resource group list and convert typecast that into a list, and then you are printing the values. If I want to get into virtual machine, probably rather than Azure management client or rather than installing Azure management resource, I might be installing something else, because what Azure tries to do is it doesn't give the whole library, they give library per service. If you want to work on storage, they have a pip library for storage. If you want to work with any service, for every service you have a pip package. You have to just get that and then try to do it. Shall we do this? Okay. So, right. Python code to get list of resource groups. So let me get into CD, C drive, Python, August 24. Okay, make dir Azure, CD Azure, make dir basics, CD basics. So let me, I shouldn't have done this. Show more options, open with code. I have messed up my paths. Okay, that's the reason when I type code, something else is opening. Yeah, and I don't have time to fix it. Fine then. So, right, sir. There is one thing which you can do whenever you open anything from a folder, right? Open this from terminal, and if you want multiple terminals, you can, if you're on Windows, just use Control-Shift-D. It is duplicate rather than right-clicking and duplicate tab. Yeah. Okay. So Python -m venv dot venv. Azure SDK for Python. This is the official documentation, but even if you before go to the official documentation, refer here for official docs. So if you basically try to look into it, they try to tell that what are the different libraries which you can basically use. Okay. So how to basically get it, how to set up the local dev environment, right? So they will have each and every steps set up one by one. Okay. So how do you create a managed resource? How do you write a Python client? How do you authenticate? How do you host your Python application? What are the different options? So Azure basically is very good in terms of how they document their workflows. So there is literally a document on anything and everything. So you go into this page, depending on which area you want to work. Okay. So I want to learn how to use libraries, library usage patterns. They're very good at documentations. Okay, you will not find this for Boto 3 and all that stuff also. Right. Fine then. So .venv scripts activate, and then let me basically go and try to do whatever has been said over here. I think I've set the environmental variable in for Terraform. ARM subscription ID in between. వీళ్ళకి కావాల్సింది ఏంటి? Azure subscription ID. Okay, I think that's a different. Fine, that's okay, man. Try to set it. Okay. Where is it? Then what is it? Yeah. Fine then. So let me try to create something called as resource group dot py. Okay. Right. Now, once I have this libraries installed. Okay. So I think where are this? Yeah. Let they get installed. In the meantime, select interpreter and let me select them. So seriously. Fine then. If dunder name is equals to dunder main and list resource groups. Resource group list. Okay. Fine. Define resource group underscore list. Let me try to see if the dependencies are done. Yeah, dependencies are installed. So all I have to do is pip requirements.txt. Okay, sir. Now the first thing is I need to get it from an environmental variable. So let me try to, in my case, I have that from an environmental variable which is called as ARM subscription ID. Okay. So in my machine, there is already an environmental variable ARM underscore subscription underscore ID. So I'll try to, first what I'll try to do is I'll try to import something called as OS. This is a standard library where you will have OS related functions. So OS dot environment of ARM underscore subscription ID, and this becomes my subscription ID. I hope everyone who is working on Terraform with Azure might have set this variable, something equivalent to this. Yeah. So that's the reason I'm basically doing that. Now I have subscription ID, and the next thing which I need to do is I need to basically create a resource management class in the credential object. Okay. So now if you try to see, right. So I'll try to tell that, give me the credentials. Credential is equals to Azure CLI credential of. So whenever you try to create this object, then what would happen is you will basically get credentials. And once you are creating a client basically pass the credential as well as subscription ID. So resource underscore client is equals to resource management client of credential comma subscription ID. Okay. Now if you try to look into it, the type of the class is resource management class, right? Now you go to this class, you will find all different functions in it. So what are the models which are available? You will find all the different things. Okay. Right now, the only thing which I want is I want to get list of resource groups. So resource client dot resource groups dot list. Okay, right. Let me just debug this code, because I'm quite sure that we know that is, I think, at least in all of these discussions, one thing which you guys might have become familiar with is debugging helps. Yeah. So this method prints the resource groups. Okay, sir. Now, what is the problem with this? Parsing failed. Enduku? Right. Let me put a breakpoint over here, and let me tell that I want to debug this. Since this is a stream file, there is no need to set anything at a project level. You can debug this code. Okay. Fine then. Now, what is it? os.environ. ఏం చేసాను నేను పాపం ఇందులో? Environ is, oh, what is it I missed? os dot get env of, this is a better way. Yeah. Okay, sir. Now I have my subscription ID. Right. Now let us try to see what is there in the result object. Result object is an iterator. Okay, if you try to see, it is iterator. So there are two things which I can do with this iterator. So iterator means it has a yield. Remember, we used to write iterator generator functions. So you can try to write a for loop and then get these values. Or నాకు అంత ఓపిక లేదని నేను సావలేను అనుకుంటే just convert that into a list so that it will get you all the resource groups. So this is my groups. Okay, now let us debug this again. అదే మీరు yield అవుతే ఎప్పటికప్పుడు వచ్చేస్తే values one after the other. Now if you try to look into the groups object, if you try to look into group, it is trying to tell that you have multiple items over here. Okay, right. Now let me try to basically see. Okay, for group in groups print, there is no need for me to worry about even what it is. I just need to know the type. Okay, okay. So what is the group, sir? So if you try to see in this group, are you seeing everything? You see ID, location, name, properties. This is all of your resource group details. Now if you try to look at what is the type of group, it prints that it is basically of a type resource group. Manaki circus anta avasaram la. But let us try to slightly change this. Ila rasi chuddam. Let us make use of lazy execution. Gurtunda yield anna function, right? Yeah. Right. So did we got the same thing now? Yes. Now What is the thing which I need to do? I just need, for example, I need to print the resource group names. So what I'll try to do is names is equals to empty list of names dot append group dot name, and then finally print names or return names, whatever it is. Okay, fine. Okay. I'm not interested in all of this, but I just want to cross check if group dot name responds or not. Yeah, that's it. My job is done. And now if I try to print all the names, I get all the resource groups names in a list. Yes. So if I can do this, don't you think that I can create a resource group? Yeah. So in that case, probably I'll be trying to pass resource client dot resource groups dot. Are you seeing there are different methods, create or update? In Azure, this is the style of work. So you need to create two things. One is get subscription ID, get an individual client for every service, and then do the activity. Okay. Right. And now, then how to create a storage account? I am not trying to write VM because VM has too many things. You need to pass a network interface. You need to pass lots of things. For that, anyway, we have Terraform. Okay. But just try to look into it. He's creating a sub credential. This time he creates a storage management client. While creating virtual machine, I'll create a virtual machine related client. And then all he does is once he has this client, basically, okay, right. So I think he's basically trying to create all the parameters that are required to create it, and then he's trying to begin create. This is asynchronous. If you don't want asynchronous, you can do dot create or update and then pass the same thing. Asynchronous means it executes, and then during that time you can work on something else also. Okay, this is the Azure style. Okay, do we understand this basic? Yeah. So tomorrow if someone says that, can you go into the Azure and delete a resource group from Python code? Can we do that? So what is that we need to do? First credential, then specific thing, whatever you are deleting, creating, updating, whatever it is, try to create a client of that. Pass a credential, pass subscription ID, and then all you have to do is you'll have simple methods like update, create, delete, list. That's it. This is what you need to do. And list is generally a generator. So everything is asynchronous over here. So you need not basically write, you can basically try to use in the generator pattern based. Am I clear on this? Yeah, right. Fine. I'm not even worried about how you basically try to, what will be the use case. It doesn't matter whatever is the use case. Okay. So tomorrow, if you want to do something programmatically, this is how you approach in Azure. Okay. In Azure, every client response we get is a generator. Not every client response are list. Okay. And whenever you are trying to create or update, it is asynchronous, like fast API. So you will have async and await methods, right? So the methods are synchronous in fashion. Right. I'm trying to write the code over here. Yeah. But did you understand the whole aspect now? So tomorrow, if someone says that, can you create a virtual machine? What will you do? You need to figure out what is the client that can create virtual machines. And then for that, you need to pass client plus resource, the credential and a subscription ID. Just pass that, you're done. Okay. Right. Fine, sir. Since anyway we have spoken about this, let us try to understand what is Google Cloud all about that. So Google SDK for Python. I'll not even get into documentation and all that stuff. The first thing is I'll try to ask the same question. Let me try to create a new thread, or let me continue this. Okay, so what was my question initially? Explain how to get list of resource groups, right? I'll try to ask, explain how to get something like VPC, network list, from Python of GCP from Python using CLI credentials. Okay, let us try to see what is technical. Here is trying to that you need to install this. And then whenever you try to do G-Cloud auth login, first time you will basically get the stuff. Now, basically, try to import the necessary stuffs. And all you need to do is here you will be creating a Mood Cloud. There you used to simply call boto3.client of boto3.resource of. Here you are importing a specific Python package and then creating the client object. And while you are creating the client object, you need to set the credentials. So he's trying to tell that, so this is my project ID, and whenever you are trying to basically list your VPCs, try to get this and you will be able to get the virtual networks. If this is something which I can do for getting the virtual network using this list, don't you think that I can create a VPC? List method unte create method kuda untadiga. Yes. So now how about creating a VPC? So right, create a VPC, network client, subnet client, create a network, right, and then create a subnet. Okay, so these things work asynchronously. That's the reason you might see some extra classes. Okay, when it looks Python API of AWS looks fairly simple. Okay, because you have a client object, resource object, directly dot CLI methods. Here they are slightly different, but Azure and GCP methods are somewhat similar. That's the reason I have said I have treated this separately. Azure lo gani GCP lo gani పనిచేస్తున్నప్పుడు ఏ సర్వీస్ కి ఆ సర్వీస్ క్లయింట్ క్రియేట్ చేయాల్సి వస్తుంది. So if you are trying to create a virtual machine, then you have to create a virtual machine client, right? So in the world of GCP, story same. You have to create a client per service, sometimes even more than that. And all you need to do is you will have methods like dot insert, dot create, right, dot delete, dot update. Straight away, that's it. And indirectly, when you are using Terraform, these methods are only getting called, but Terraform uses Go language as SDK. My Terraform provider is nothing magical. Terraform provider is all of the code that is written in Go language, which can exactly do the same things. Okay. Before creating everywhere, it will cross check if the resource already exists, don't create it. And whatever it has created, it will try to write all of that to a JSON file, which we will be calling it as state. Okay. అది పెద్ద గొప్ప అద్భుతమైన ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఏం కాదు, బట్ it basically simplifies the infra creation. Okay, right? So are we clear on this, sir? Yeah. If it is Oracle client, so what will you do? Same. Yeah. To do basic operations, all you need to do is you need to understand what is the package which you are installing and what is your activity. You will directly not get a solution to your problem, but you will basically get a starting point. And from there, whatever you have learned in basic Python will help you out in building up a logic from there. Okay. Now, if someone says, I want to write a Python code to create a Kubernetes cluster in Google Cloud, can I do that? Obviously, you can do that because there is an API for everything. All you need to figure out is first to go to that point, what are the clients which you need to create? What are the values which you need to pass? That value list will be a little bit huge when you try to take something like storage account or S3 bucket or VPC. The amount of details which you pass is relatively less. ఆ కేసులో ఎక్కువ వాల్యూలు పాస్ చేయాల్సి వస్తుంది అంతే. That's the only difference. Okay. And VPC, resource groups, these kind of things create immediately. But if you are creating a Kubernetes cluster, it takes a fairly amount of time. If you try to create a EC2 machine, your program has to wait till you get acknowledgement. Okay. ఇలాంటి లాజిక్లు ఉంటాయి, అవన్నీ మనం చేయం. Again, what I'm trying to tell is you'll not get into all of these details because there is a Terraform to do all of this. Yeah. But sometimes when there is very corner scenario where you want to write a Python code for, you should know how to attempt it. Okay. So try to tell that this is something as a hobby. You are using Terraform, but you wanted to understand how, if I have to do it programmatically, how it works out, I've explored this area. That's it. Okay. You will never write Python code to deal with infra creation, infra updation. There are better tools for this, but this is to just to understand how they work. Am I clear on this? Yeah, right. So I'm not even writing notes for this, man. Me దగ్గర already you have a better option there. Okay, fine. PaaS environments, yesterday we have discussed. In the world of Azure, we have something called as App Engine. In the world of Google, there is something called as Google Run. Okay, Google App Engine and their Azure App Service. So there, what you can do is you can basically create a Python container runtime, deploy your application, they get deployed. That's fine. Now, let me try to speak about. We have written Lambda, right? Okay. So serverless in Azure. Okay. Azure serverless is slightly different, but still it's not that difficult also. It's different, that's it. So let me go over here. Okay. Let me go over here. Make their functions, CD functions. Okay. Now the first thing what we need to understand is whatever we have done in Lambda in the world of Azure, we call that as Azure functions. Okay. The first thing, before starting any serverless technology, try to understand what its restrictions are. Azure functions restrictions. If you remember in AWS, the restriction was it cannot run anything which takes more than 15 minutes. Okay, right. So what Azure tries to tell is I'll give you different plans. So if you go with a consumption plan is like billing where you will be charged only on the basis of what you call whatever you have used. So it says that maximum is 10 minutes only. But if you go with a premium plan, you get 30 minutes of execution. But in premium, you don't pay only when your code is running, you pay all the time. Okay. So premium serverless aina actually serverless billing kadu. Okay, it is a consistent billing, right? So dedicated plan, here there will be a dedicated hardware, there is no time limits, but generally people prefer this. And any function is not supposed to take anything more than seconds, sir. Forget about minutes. Okay, so roughly they should be able to process your data in seconds. At unit should be seconds, not even minutes. Okay, right. Now, right. So this also I'm not writing in notes. I want you to Google it out. Okay. Now the next thing is how to write this Azure function. Okay. So let me go over here. Azure functions, Python example. So Microsoft makes my life much easier. Refer here for docs. What it says is install once you have Visual Studio Code, this video click here and okay. But the whole point which they are trying to tell is you need to update the core tools. Once you have updated the core tools, what you can do is you can run the tools locally and all that stuff. But if you remember, yesterday we have deployed Azure function from Azure after signing in. I can go over there and then try to create a very simple function. So let me go over here. Let me go to this functions. Let me copy this. Open folder. Okay. Right, sir. So if you remember yesterday, I've gone over here, right? Okay, sir. Now in Azure functions, okay. So I think there is function app. Right now I don't have anything. But over what I can do is I would try to tell that I want to create an Azure function. So what is that you want to do? Do you want to create a new project? Do you want to create a new containerized project? Do you want to create a Azure function? I want to create an Azure function. So this is the folder where it will contain. What is your language? Select whatever language which you are interested in. Python. So what is the model which you want? I'll try to take the latest model. So what is the interpreter which you want? So let me take this. So what is the template? How do you want to run this function? So do you want to run this function based on which trigger? If you want to run it based on whenever someone makes a call, select a HTTP trigger. If there is any other thing, you can basically try to tell that, or if you want to decide the trigger later, you can call it. But for now, let me try to create a HTTP trigger. What is the name of your function? Okay. Hello Azure function. And then it is asking for this function. How do you want authorization? Do you want any authentication or authorization that is required? I would say that I want anonymous. I don't want to do any fancy job work. So it will create a virtual environment for me. It will try to set up everything for me. Yeah. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి ఎవరి జీవితం సుఖంగా ఉంది, డెవలపర్ దా, డెవాప్స్ ఇంజనీర్ దా? ఇలాంటి టూల్ మన డెవాప్స్ లో ఉన్నాయా? చూసారా కోడ్ కూడా రాసింది. కోడ్ డాక్యుమెంటేషన్. దీంట్లో నాకు కావాల్సిన అతుకులు మార్చుకుంటాను నేను అంతే. యా రైట్ సార్. Now if you basically get into the folder where we have created it, it has created all of this. It has given requirements.txt. Now all I need to do is go over here for my stuff. I try to select this. Okay. Now if I want, I can try to run this function locally also. But let us try to see what this function is trying to do. So whenever you call this function, I will get a parameter called as name. Whenever you pass the name, okay, if you have passed any value into the name, then if I will basically try to write the response saying that okay, this function has been triggered successfully. Here I can try to write any logic. That's a different story. Now let me try to show you this. Now what I want to do is, okay, this is my local project. If I want, I can start debugging, or I would try to tell that okay, Azure functions now deploy to Azure. నేను ఏమైతే రాసిన అదే అద్భుతం, డిప్లాయ్ చేసేయండి. Now where do you want to deploy it? I want to deploy into Azure subscription. I don't have a function app. Create a new function app. Enter some globally unique name. So hello Azure LT. Hopefully that is unique. What is the version of Python? 3.19. Which location? East US. That's it. Done. And from now onwards, make changes, try to tell deploy, and then the function will start working. Okay. Oh, మన కోట లేదా? Fine. Or let me try to create one function app and deploy it. కోట ఎందుకు లేదు? ఉంటదిగా. అంత దారుణమైన పరిస్థితిలో ఉన్నాం మనం. Right. Fine. So let me try to log in first. But the point which I'm trying to tell us, these developer tools are very intuitive when it comes to the Microsoft world, right? So you can play around with them. You can directly. Oh, sir, badru man destroy cheyala. Right. Fine then. Let me go over here. Let me get into resource groups, and let me go with the subscription. This Visual Studio Online is for this. Okay. Right. Let me try to do one thing. Let me go with functions app. create a functions app. Right. Now it is trying to tell that what is the plan which you want. Consumption means you will be paying only for what you have used. So I'll go for consumption plan. And then let me try to create a new resource group which is called as functions demo. So what is your functions name? Hello Azure functions LT. Right. What is your runtime stack? My runtime stack is Python. What is the location? East US lo ibbandi undanటుంది kada adi. Where is Central India? Let me try to select Central India. It doesn't matter what the rest of the things are. నీకు నచ్చినవి చేసుకో. Yeah, basic authentication is disabled. Okay, fine. And by this time I'll be selecting this app rather than asking it to create. Yeah. You can develop the Lambda functions also in the same way. So yesterday there was an extension which I have shown, which is called as Developer Toolkit of AWS. But unfortunately, Google has not given it. I'm not sure about the reason, but okay. Let me go to this resource. Okay. Now, if it is trying to that, how do you want it? Do you want to create a function in Azure portal? So here also you can do that. So what is your programming model? Which trigger do you want? Same. Whatever we have seen over there, you will get the same thing, but it's okay. Let me go over here. Deploy to Azure, Azure subscription. Do you want to deploy? Yes, I want. Right. So once this is done, then you would have your function deployed over there and you will get a URL. Since this is a HTTP trigger, you can directly hit the URL. And all right, let me ask this. Azure functions consumption plan unit of billing. Right. So it is measured in seconds. So when you make 1 million executions, your bill will be $0.2. Okay, and this is for the amount of data that is getting transferred. So you will have to pay for that. So actually you are paying for two things: how much of data you are passing and receiving, and what is your execution time. Yeah, right. So right now it says that I have deployment is successful, right? So now do you want to see the logs or do you want to upload any settings and all that stuff? Let us try to basically go over here, get into functions. Right. So this was the function. Okay, settings. Okay, I don't want any settings, so let me directly go to browse here. I think where will I get the URL then? 1 minute, sir. Hello Azure function. Yeah. So are you saying this is the code which you have written? So get function URL, or you can test and run the function over here. So everything is same. So get function URL. So it is trying to tell that this is your URL, right? And now let me try to write name is equals to LT. Hello LT, the function has been executed. Careful, or whatever it is, because ఇక్కడ కోడ్ లేవుంది parameter name ఉంటే ఒకలాగా name లేకపోతే ఇంకోలా ట్రీట్ చేయమన్నాం. First time I didn't pass name, second time I passed name. Okay, now here if you try to see, there is a request object, and in this request object, if you can basically get all such event information what we got in AWS, and then process that information. Okay, so request dot parameters, if you want, if you are passing any parameters, you will get it. You can get the whole body, right? So I'm saying request dot get JSON. Let me try to go to Postman. Come on, man. Okay, let me try to click on new HTTP post body raw format in JSON format. Yeah, and let me try to build. Number 1 is 10. Number 2 is 20. Okay, right. So right now it is trying to tell that you have basically got this, but if you try to look into this code, okay, request dot get JSON, I got the request body, right? So if I made this change, just మనకి ఈజీగా ఉండటానికి print of request body, and all I need to do is deploy to Azure. Okay, ఈ సర్కస్ అంతా ఇక్కడ చేయకుండా అక్కడే కోడ్ మార్చేసుకోవచ్చు. Yeah. Now whatever is the request, so basically when you do this, what the stuff, what would happen is you will basically get the JSON. And if you remember, yesterday we have tried to deal with accessing the event object, and in the event object, by reading the data, I want to do anything. That is exactly what we can do from here. Okay, now let me go over here, test run. Then it is asking what are your query parameters, what are your methods. Let me go over here. Okay, and let me pass body, and ఈ బాడీలో ఊరికనే సరదాగా name is equals to Monty Python అని రాద్దాం. Okay, right sir. So hello Monty Python, ఇది ఎలా రీడ్ చేసింది? Because in the body I had something called as name. So can't I read the JSON? Yes. So if I am able to basically read the JSON, now you tell me, can't I basically take all the user inputs and do all the manipulation, calculator, whatever we have done? Is it not the same thing? Yes. So this is Azure's way of doing things. Okay, right? And Azure also supports various languages. You can see the logs straight away. Yeah, right. So you can basically try to see live logs and all of that stuff. Okay, all the clouds basically have it. And now if you try to look at what are the invocations which we had done, let us try to see how many invocations we have done. It says that you have done that, and your executions were for 27 milliseconds. Okay, right. Now if you are interested, Python code, okay, to insert JSON into Azure Cosmos DB. నేను చేయను, but if you want to do the same thing what we have done for API gateway yesterday, you have to write this kind of code. Here there is a document. There try to write a book, create a book, delete a book, update book, story remains same. I am not doing this, not required. But the point is every cloud has something equivalent to what we have done yesterday. Clear on this, sir? Yes. Okay. Now let me get into API management service. Now let me go over here and create an API management service. And let me see. ఇప్పుడు మనం ఏది సెలెక్ట్ చేసింది రెండు ఏడిసినాయా సర్లేండి హలో Azure LT whatever it is. Central India resource name books, organizational name LT or learning thoughts admin@. Okay, now what is the plan which you want? Right now let me not get into any fancy plans. Okay, చూసారా పూణే లేదు అంటుంది. Now every region is not equally capable, sir. So let me go with East US. Right, fine. Then next it is trying to what is that you want. Okay, I want application insight, I want defender. Okay, if you remember API manager can do it will log every request that comes in, it will do security scanning for you, and it will try to give you insights of whatever is happening. That is what it is trying to tell. Next, so do you want a public endpoint or do you want a private endpoint? Right now it says that private endpoint is not supported because we have gone with developer version. If I go with the premium version, I'll get this. Next, so how do you want identity? So that is authentication. I don't want any of this stuff. Let me basically click on review and install, and then let me try to click on create. Why advertisement? Okay, refer here for right, sir. So what is it trying to tell? No matter whatever you have, whatever APIs which you have, you can start hosting, and we will do all the API management for you. By doing what? I'll give you API management plane, I'll give you a gateway, and I'll give you a developer portal. So you develop whatever it is, okay, and you deploy your application over here so that your end customers, that is your customers, can use this gateway to use whatever you are building in Azure. Okay, so yeah. Let me go over here. Books. So are you saying APIs? Right? Now we can manage everything into your APIs. Pricing, what are the subscriptions? Subscriptions is who has access to your APIs. Authentication inbuilt, right? And what are the APIs which you are basically trying to build? Okay. Tell me the technology you can build the API over here. Okay. So do you want to build the APIs from any existing resource? Select an Azure function, try to tell hello or create a book or whatever it is. Okay. Now you can create whatever APIs which you want. Define an API. Do you want WebSocket? Let me tell that. I'll do this. Now it is trying to tell, do you want a basic API or a full API? Let me try to write a basic API. Let me try to write display name is equals to books. Web service URL is, okay, I'll not worry about it. I'll basically try to tell that this much is more than enough. Do I want to give full? So it is asking what is the scheme of your URL, what are the tags, okay, and I don't have any products, but if I have products, do you want it? And you can version this API also. But మనకి అంత అవసరం లేదు, మనం చేసే పనులకి మనకి అన్ని తెలియదు అట్లా ఎందుకులేండి. సఫిక్స్ ఏమైనా కావాలా? Okay, let me try to tell that this is a library API and the suffix is books. Create. Okay, sir. Now, whenever someone hits at books, what do you want me to do? Okay, so I want whenever someone hits book, okay, to edit over here and forward this request to some of the Azure functions or logic app, whatever you want to do. So let me discard this. So do you want me to do any processing of this API? So here, if you try to look into policies, whenever an inbound request comes, you can basically try to tell how do you want to basically define. ఇవన్నీ నేను పడలేను అనుకుంటే డైరెక్ట్గా కోడ్ రాసి ఇచ్చేయచ్చు. But the point which I'm trying to tell is, it gives you all the options while sending the APIs. Do you want me to any processing to be done? And then if you try to look into settings, okay, so these were our earlier settings, okay, and then it is trying to tell how do you want authorization. So do you want none? I don't. This is a open call, but if your company has implemented some kind of authentication, you can basically do that. And then do you want to test the API? What is the revision which you want to basically work it out? So right now this is, there is no online revision, there is a current revision, and what are the changes which you have done, you do all of that and then you start working on it. Now you go to the portal. Okay, this is your actual developer stuff. Let me try to click on publishing the portal. We'll make the okay, right, fine, sir. Now what are your portal settings? Okay, so this is a developer portal. Okay, what is, how do you want content security? I don't have any content security. Do you want the origin so that who only these people should access this? What are the valid users? Add your users who can use these APIs. Create groups. Create all sorts of authentication. Okay, right. And then finally you start building APIs. And whenever you are trying to build APIs, ideally in our case, what we need to tell is my API is already running in Azure App Service, or if it is ChatGPT kind of stuff, OpenAI service, function app, container app, logical app. If it is anything other than this, then you start basically hooking it with URLs. Okay, so for example, if I try to tell that this is my function app, so what is the function app which you have selected? Mandagara hello functions Azure. Let me select this. That's it. Click on. Yesterday we have done the same thing in Azure also, in GCP, right? So here the UI looks like a little bit more visually appealing because that is what Microsoft is very good at. But conceptually, you are doing the same thing. Okay, but generally you create different products, and for that you define schemas. Who is your credential manager, right? Power Platform is from Microsoft. That's a different story, but you get everything. And you can customize your billing. You can serve your customers completely from here. So for example, if you think that you have written a wonderful API, start hosting it, and then it will start collecting, understand per customer, whatever is the billing, these guys will try to generate the bills so that you can charge them. That's how simple it is. Clear on this, sir? Yes. Almost all the three players give you this. Okay. Whatever I've called as Azure functions, Google calls it as Google functions. Whatever I have called it as API management, Google calls it as APG. Okay, but story remains exactly the same. Yeah, so first ఇవన్నీ తీసేద్దాం ఆగండి, మనకి ఎందుకు. Here what schemas mean in API? Schemas basically means that the open ACA Swagger or JSON documentation, whatever you have built for your API. That is what schemas are all about. Okay. అలాగో ఇవి చూసాం కాబట్టి అది కూడా చూసేద్దాం. ఓకే, సో it will not take a lot of time, sir. Okay, because conceptually I think you have understood. We were doing the same thing, right? So now if you want to take it further, you can create workflows, logic apps. I'm not getting into all of that stuff. మనకి ఇంతవరకు వస్తే చాలా ఎక్కువ. Yeah, right, sir. Go to my console. Right now, right, so are you seeing functions? Okay, so let me go to the functions, and then I've tried that I want to create a function. Okay, then it says what is the name of your function? Hello world. Allow unauthenticated invocation. మనకి authentication ఏం లేవు కాబట్టి allow unauthenticated. Okay, so now when we speak of GCP in India is present in Mumbai and Delhi. Yeah, right. So let me go with next. Then it is asking what is your programming language. Our language is 3.12. request.getJSON. దీనికి Azure లో చూసిన దానికి ఏమైనా తేడా ఉందా? Yeah, so if you try to see even in Azure, when you created a function, if you wanted to get the JSON, this is what you will get. And if you want to get arguments, request.arguments, and then he is also writing the same function which gets by name. So if you want to pass the whole JSON, you can pass the whole JSON, and it is present in this request JSON object. In that you can try to write off number 1, off number 2, return result which is number 1 plus number 2, right? Now this is main, this is requirements.txt. if you want, you can add more files. It is not required, but let me try to click on. Right, so let us ask this question, sir. GCP functions restrictions. What is the restriction here? 9 minutes. AWS gives you the largest, 15. Azure in the consumption plan, 10. And GCP gives you 9 minutes. Actually 9 minutes kuda anavasaram, correct maatadukunte. You shouldn't write anything which takes in minutes. You should write something which takes in seconds here. Okay, right. Now if you try to basically look into this billing, you will be charged. Okay, minimum unit of billing for GCP functions. Okay, right. So are you saying it is also similar to Azure? So you will be charged based on number of invocations, and then you will be calculating GB second. So if you are basically trying to use 128 MB, which is the minimum amount, this is something which will be charged per second execution. This is how they will charge you. And First 2 million requests are free. Azure gives you 1 million and AWS is giving you 1 million, GCP is giving you 2 million. Okay. Right, sir. Okay. Now it says that this is your function. So it says, this is what it is. Question mark, name equals to Python. Are you getting hello Python? Yeah. So this is exactly similar to what we have written. Now, if you try to take this URL, let us try to look at what was the code which they have written. ఏంటి నేమ్ ఎక్కడ నుండి తెచ్చుకుంటారు లేదంటే ఎక్కడ నుండి తెచ్చుకున్నారు అంతే కదా. యా, సో లెట్ మీ గో ఓవర్ హియర్. So they are passing. Yeah. Now let me pass something called as name in this, in which I try to write. Okay. So they have given that example to understand how to fetch the data. So if you want to get number one, number two, what is it you will be trying to write? You will go over here and then you will try to write something like, okay, I need to, from here I can't edit it. I have to click on this. So for example, if I want to get number one, what is it I'll try to do? Okay, I'll try to write number one is equals to request underscore JSON of number one. Okay, and number two. Then let me try to write number two. మనకి ఈ కండిషన్ కూడా పని లేదు, అసలు రిక్వెస్ట్ JSON అవుతే ఇచ్చేద్దాం లేదంటే వేరే ఇచ్చేద్దాం. ఓకే, నౌ ఐ విల్ బి ట్రైంగ్ టు రైట్ result is equals to number one plus number two. And what is that they are trying to send? They are basically trying to send hello and all that stuff, right? Now I'll try to tell that in this case return result. Direct ga 30 అవుతుంది. Okay, right, save and redeploy. Okay, for every cloud function you will have a trigger, and one of the most widely used trigger is HTTP trigger, but you can trigger it with any events that occur in your cloud. Whenever a new object is added to the S3 bucket, whenever a new object is added to the storage account, there are many triggers which you can add, but the most convenient trigger is HTTP trigger. That's the reason I'm trying to use it. All clouds support that. Yeah, right. If you basically go with triggers, this is a HTTP trigger, but you can add whatever triggers which you want. Okay, what's in that? Now let me go over here. Oh, మనం ఏదో తేడా కొట్టాం కోడ్. Number one, number two, నేమ్ ఉంది. ఏంటి మరి ప్రాబ్లం దీంట్లో? ఓకే, test service. Okay, configuring test trigger event. ఓకే, ఎక్కడన్నా మనం కామాలు గట్రా మిస్ చేసామా? లేదుగా. ఓకే, ఫైన్. ఓకే, ఓ కిట్ బ్యాష్ కనబట్లేదా? చాలా దారుణాలు చేశాను నేను ఆ సిస్టంలో. Right. What is happening? Incontent unable to complete the request. Either the server is overloaded. Oh, ఈ ఆథరైజేషన్ టోకెన్లు ఇవన్నీ. 1 minute, sir. Let me click on. సచ్చినట్టు క్లౌడ్ షెల్లో రన్ చేస్తాం, ఇంక వేరే ఆప్షన్ లేదు మనకి. ఓకే, అరేసింగ్ రన్ ఇన్ క్లౌడ్ షెల్. ఇక్కడ చూపిస్తుంది ఏదో పాపం, ఎక్సెప్షన్స్ ఇన్ పోస్ట్. ఓ, దీని బాధ అర్థమైంది. సో వాట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ట్రైయింగ్ టు టెల్ ఇస్, ఇఫ్ యూ రిమెంబర్ వీ హ్యావ్ మనం చేసింది ఒకటే పాపం ఇందులో. కమ్ ఆన్, రిసోర్స్. ఓకే, where is edit? It is trying to tell that you cannot send number as a response. That's it. Come on. Ideally, we'll be sending a JSON response. I just wanted to send 30 back. Yeah. GCP is slower. Yeah, you can think it in the same way. Yes. Right, sir. No, that's not. Actually, all the clouds are same. They use very competitive technologies. There is nothing like this is slow, that is fast. Yeah. So if you try to see how Google monitors the things, you will start hating AWS and Azure. There is no need of any incident manager. Everything is controlled from GCP itself. Yeah. So every cloud has a good, bad, and ugly aspect, sir. Did we got back 30? Yeah. The only problem was I was returning an integer which it didn't like. Okay. Fine, sir. So are we clear on this? Now, let me have this, and then let me get into Apache. What is Apache equivalent to? API management in Azure, API gateway in AWS, and Apache in. So over here, are you saying API products, portals, developers, apps, monetization, any API host chesukodaniki. Okay. So now you can write that I am creating a product, and the name of my product is library. Display name is library. Okay. Automatically approve the request, access requests, or I don't want to do it. What are the types of operations which you want to add? I want to add an operation which is for an I need to create an API proxy, but I'll be trying to write /books, and the method for that is post. And whenever you have added this method, okay, so what is the quota, right? So I'll try to tell that for every 1 second, try to ensure that there are no more than 10 requests that are being sent. Ideally, I should need to create an API proxy also. Yeah. But once I do this, and then from here, I'll try to integrate all of this with Google Functions. Something running in Google Cloud. Google Kubernetes, Google Run. You name the services, just like how we had all of the integrations which are available over here. It does the same thing, but it gives you inbuilt monetization. Yeah, where you can basically um, actually this is the post stuff they are trying to bring it up, but the whole idea over here is whenever you are trying to create products, you will have different customers. Per customer billing it will be generated over here itself. Okay, so ఇందులో ఇవన్నీ ఏ క్లౌడ్ కి ప్రత్యేకం కాదు, అన్ని సేమే. సో ఇఫ్ యూ గో విత్ ఇంటిగ్రేషన్స్, go to application integration. Try to go with setup integration. This is the whole workflow. Okay, ఇలాంటి దాన్ని the same thing in the world of AWS we call it as step functions. Azure calls it as logic apps, and here you basically try to build a what you call integrations. Now over here what you can do is you can try to set up the workflow for your whole application integration. If you try to see, you can integrate whatever you have run with many things. Okay, right? Same thing in all the clouds, sir. They're all equally capable. But the point is serverless API gateway. The API gateway is a standard name, that is the architectural name for it. But Azure calls it as API management. They call it as APG. Okay, because APG was a Google's product, they didn't want to rename it. They are going in the same workflow, right? So now, do you agree that can you write a basic serverless functionality now? Yes. So for example, if I want to write a serverless functionality which stores the items in S3 bucket, you give the JSON file, I store the JSON in S3 bucket. I store the JSON in Azure storage account. I store the JSON in Google storage account. Can we do that? So what is it you will get? Request JSON, get the JSON, and then dump that JSON into S3 bucket. For that, just Google the cloud to figure out how do you write the JSON to the S3 bucket. Then give on to the storage management client. In S3, you try to create S3 client. In the world of Azure, you create storage management client. In the world of GCP, you will be basically creating the Google Cloud Storage client, and then you dump that object into your bucket. Done. Okay. Are we clear on this, sir? Yes. Okay. Fine then. So generally, you will not go to this extreme. I completely understand that. But the point is, you need to understand this pattern of API gateway. Okay. API gateway ni మనం క్రియేట్ చేయకపోవచ్చు, మేనేజ్ చేయకపోవచ్చు, కానీ మన అప్లికేషన్ బిల్డ్ చేసే API లన్నీ దాని ద్వారా ఇంటిగ్రేట్ అవుతాయి. Okay. So API gateway is basically called as backend for front end. What is it? So whenever I am trying to develop a React application, Angular JS application, whatever application which I am trying to develop, to the my web developers, what I'll do is, where are you developing the code? Don't even worry about it. I have an API gateway. Everything is documented over here. Have a look at it. Okay. So let me try to show you one of the architecture. eShop on containers. I don't need all of this. All I need is this architecture. Sorry, saying all of your services are running in the background. In front, what is that they have put? API gateway. Whether it is a mobile app, it is speaking with API gateway. Whether it is a web application that you develop in React JS or Angular JS, they speak with API gateway, right? and these are your individual services. A traditional microservice application looks like this. Okay, but here there are only 4 or 5 services. You might have 70 or 80. Okay, this is how the actual architecture of the application looks like. And these were the individual fast API things which we have written. We have written a fast API which writes to a database. Okay, they develop these things. They run individually. They basically are scaled individually, and all of them are exposed to the outside world using gateways. And gateway will be accessed by your front ends, whether that be a web front end or a mobile front end. మీరు ఫేస్బుక్ మాట్లాడినా బుక్ మై షో మాట్లాడినా ఏదన్నా ఇదే ఆర్కిటెక్చర్, right? So everything, so this API gateway is basically called as what? Backend for front end. So your backend need not worry about whether I have 7 microservices or 700 microservices. దానికి అనవసరం. All it speaks with is API gateway. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay, so this is the reason why I have spoken about it, because you'll be speaking about these kind of architectures when we start Kubernetes. Okay, once you develop that fast API applications, generally the one other very popular way of deploying that is Kubernetes or containers. And when you have containers, whatever you run in the containers, you expose it as an API gateway to the outside world, and everyone will integrate with your application with respect to that. This API gateway can be a public component as well as a private component. That is your choice. Yeah, right. Fine, sir. How the API gateway route to multiple services since we point to single Lambda function. So is Lambda function the only integration which you have seen so far? Or were there no other integrations, sir? Yeah. Then you ask the same question to yourself, Dilish. Since we were discussing about Lambda at this moment, I have shown you only Lambda integrations. But there are other services also, right? So from API gateway, I can call to Kubernetes, which is running on Azure, if it is Azure API Manager. With Google, I can call GKE stuff. So that is how the integrations work out. అన్నీ నేను చేయాలంటారు, మీరు మాత్రం ఏం చేయొద్దు. ఓకే, ఇదే నేను అదే గర్భవతి కోరికలు అనేది ఇదే ఎగ్జాక్ట్ గా. The cravings of a what you call pregnant woman is what you get when I am doing. When you are doing, you don't get the same cravings. ఇవాళ ఏదోలాగా అయిపోతే చాలే, శనివారం ఆదివారం అయింది 6:30కే. ఈ పాటికి ఆల్రెడీ ఏంటి మంచి సినిమాలు గట్రా రిలీజ్ మా టీవీలో అట్లా వేసి ఉంటారు కదా, రైట్? మా టీవీలో 2 సినిమాలు చూస్తే రోజు అయిపోతుంది తెలుసా, యాడ్లు వస్తాయిగా. ఫైన్ సార్, fine then, sir. Again, I know that the Python which you have spoken is a little bit more than what is expected from you people. I know that, right? There is no doubt about it. But I know about this. At least I want you to speak these terms, sir. For the people who are experienced, speak about API gateways, speak about serverless. For the people who are freshers, hello world programmer and GitHub lo bettanడి. That creates an impact. Hello world Lambda function, hello world Azure function, hello world GCP function. Just try to write that, and whatever API gateway integration or whatever Lambda function which you have written to start, write the item to the books. You have written fast API, right? నేను నా కోడ్ తీసుకొని పెట్టుకోమన్నా. Whatever books I have written, I have asked you to put it your GitHub for freshers. Now the same books try to develop for AWS Lambda and DynamoDB. Try to do similar stuff in Azure and AWS. Try to write a simple documentation, post it in GitHub in different repositories, post it on LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn lo vaadedappudu taglu vaadandi. Yeah, so this is something which will basically prove that you know a little bit, and probably some startups might call you there itself. Na korika adi, right? For the people who are experienced, what you can tell is you have seen developers trying this, you found this area interesting, you have tried to do a sample out of your free time, and then you have written a very simple Lambda function, which in your personal accounts you will pass what is the tag name and what is the tag value, and it will delete all the EC2, all the resources, all EC2 machines which have the tag value. Kudarda? So all you have to pass is, rather than number 1 and number 2, tag name, tag value. Tag name is env and value is dev. And then in the Lambda function, you will try to go and read all the EC2 machines in every region and then delete those EC2 machines. ఇది చెప్తే సరిపోదా? ఎందుకంటే పెద్ద ఇంటిగ్రేషన్, గొప్ప ఇంటిగ్రేషన్ ఏమి ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేయడం మీ దగ్గర ఉండే ఎవరైనా. సో ఏ బస్ ఇతనాతో బతాదు. You just say that this is a hobby project for you. On weekends, మీకు పని తప్ప అసలు వేరేది రాదని చెప్పండి. అది అబద్ధమైన రెజ్యూమే అబద్ధం కదా. అసలు కెరియర్ ఆబ్జెక్టివ్ తోనే మన అబద్ధం మొదలవుతుంది. అసలు మన ఆబ్జెక్టివ్ అదే, రైట్? ఇందులో చాలా మంది ఉద్యోగం ఎందుకు చేస్తున్నారంటే, నాకు మొన్న ఒకతను చెప్తున్నాడు, ఇది తెలుగులో కూడా హిందీలో కూడా చెప్తున్న తర్వాత, వాళ్ళ నాన్నగారు రియల్ ఎస్టేట్ వ్యాపారం చేస్తున్నాడు, బాగా వస్తున్నాయి డబ్బులు. అయినా నాకు ఉద్యోగం కావాలని మన నాకు తెలిసిన ఫ్రెండ్ ఉండి వచ్చారు. నీకు ఎందుకురా ఉద్యోగం ఇప్పుడు, ఎందుకు, మీ నాన్న బాగానే ఉంది కదా అంటే, సంబంధాలు రావట్లేదంట, రైట్? ఇప్పుడు గొర్రె బాగా బలిసింది అనుకోండి, ఎవరికి ప్రమాదం? గొర్రెకి ప్రమాదం అంటారా, గొర్రె కాపరికి ప్రమాదం అంటారా? గొర్రెకే కదా. ఈడు బంగారంలాగా ఉన్నదాన్ని పెళ్లి చేసుకోవటానికి ఈడు లావ్ అవుతున్నాడంటే, నేను అదే అన్నారు, నీకు అంత పోనీ అబద్ధం ఆడే, యూ జస్ట్ టెల్ దట్ 6 months or 7 months యూ హావ్ వర్క్ సమ్వేర్. ఇప్పుడు ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ లే ఫేకులు పడుతున్నారు. రోజు ఒక కంపెనీకి వర్క్ ప్లేస్కి వెళ్ళరా, ల్యాప్టాప్ పట్టుకో, నీ రియల్ ఎస్టేట్ వ్యాపారమే చేసుకో, ఏంటంటే ఐటీ ఉద్యోగం అని చెప్పి. దేర్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ వర్క్ ప్లేసెస్. సుఖమైన జీవితాన్ని ఈ పెళ్లి గురించి ఎందుకు సంకనాగించుకుంటాం, రైట్? ఇది ఒక కారణం. రెండో కారణం, మా ఊర్లో అందరూ అడుగుతున్నారు, ఏంటి మీ అబ్బాయి ఏం చేస్తున్నాడు, రైట్? మీ అబ్బాయి మీ గురించి అడిగాడు, వాళ్ళ అబ్బాయిలు ఏం చేస్తున్నారు? ఓకే, these reasons should not be the reason for your career. So that's the point. I'm not trying to tell that but this is unfortunately the reality. Okay, సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఉద్యోగం ఎందుకు కావాలరా నీకు అంటే, ఇప్పుడు డబ్బులు వస్తాయని చెప్పి నేను బాధపడేవాడిని కదా, సంబంధాలు రావట్లేదంట. ఎర్రగా అవటానికి యాసిడ్ పోసుకున్నట్టు ఉంటుంది. రైట్ సార్. గర్ల్స్ లైక్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ బాయ్సా? ఈ భ్రమంలో ఉన్నారా మీరు? నథింగ్ సార్. Sir, I'll try to tell you a simple thing. The GCP function was not working. Yes, I went into the logs, and what was the error message there? The return value should be string list. Okay, right. మనుషులు ఇంత స్ట్రైట్ ఫార్వర్డ్ గా ఆన్సర్లు చెప్తారా? నువ్వు నీకు ఎందుకురా నా మీద కోపం అంటే నువ్వు నన్ను చేసావని చెప్తారు ఎవడన్నా, రైట్? Somehow I find this convenient, sir, rather than people, because it will directly tell you what is the problem, or at least it will give you a hint where you can find out. Yeah, right. Okay, sir, fine. So kindly add this projects to your GitHub. Precious experienced people, you just try to tell that you have written, you use you explore different services on your account, and generally you have a habit of forgetting to remove the resources, and unnecessarily you have to pay the bills couple of times. So what you have done is you have written a very simple API, and you call to that API by trying to give what is the tag name and what is the tag value in AWS, Azure, GCP, and all the things. It hits the endpoint. This function will try to go into all the EC2 machines, all the databases, or if you want, you can try to tell that I have also tried to tell the resource type EC2. So then it will try to call the particular resource, and then it will try to delete all the machines. At least try to tell this. Okay, and even you need not tell that you have done this for your office. You can try to tell that you have done for your benefit. That is more than enough. Okay, companies want people who DevOps engineers who have the automation mindset. Okay, it is not how many tools which you have. These things basically give new requirements. That's the reason I am asking you to tell this. Okay, right, sir? Thank you. That's what I had for the day. Or that's what I had for the Python this time. Yeah, right. Fine, sir. Thank you.